and young Miss Woffington was soon raising the spirits and charming the ears of the Dublin theatre-goers. Success didn't come to her easily, though. She danced between the acts in the theatre in Aungier Street, and she played bit parts. But then one night in the month of March 1737, the actress who was to play Ophelia in Shakespeare's Hamlet was unable to appear. Peg persuaded the management of the playhouse in Aungier Street that she not only knew the part, but could play it. She got her chance.
How now, Ophelia? What's the matter?
Alas, my lord, I've been so affrighted.
With what, to the name of God?
My lord, as I was sewing in my chamber, Lord Hamlet, with his doublet all unbraced, no hat upon his head, his stocking fouled, ungartered, and downgyved to his ankle, pale as his shirt, his knees knocking each other, and with a look so piteous in purport as if he had been loosed out of hell to speak of horrors, he comes before me.
And what said he?
He took me by the wrist and held me hard. Then goes he to the length of all his arm, and with his other hand thus over his brow, he falls to such perusal of my face as he would draw it. Long stayed he so. At last, a little shaking of mine arm, and thrice his head thus waving up and down, he let a sigh so piteous and profound that it did seem to shatter all his bulk and end his being. That done, he lets me go, and with his head over his shoulder turned, he seemed to find his way without his eyes, for out of doors he went without their help, and to the last bended their light on me.
From then on, Peg could hardly put a foot wrong. The Dublin audiences loved her, but she had her eye on wider horizons. Over in London, the two rival playhouses of Drury Lane and Covent Garden were always ready to welcome talented Irish actors and actresses. In the year 1740, Peg opened in The Recruiting Officer by fellow Irishman George Farquhar. She was an instant success. In the rough, tough world of the London theatre at the time, however, you needed not only success, but friends. Peg was lucky enough to attract the attention of Charles Macklin, an Irish actor and playwright, who had been in England for some years with his wife, who was also an actress, and who took a kindly interest in inexperienced newcomers, particularly if they came from his own part of the world. Peg lodged with the Macklins for some time and acted at some time in her career in at least one of his plays, Henry VII. Plays rarely enjoyed long runs at this time, since the public was always demanding something new. So we have no complete list of every part Peg Woffington ever performed. It would be surprising, however, if at some time in her acting life she never played in Macklin's The True-Born Irishman, though it would probably have been more popular in Dublin than in London. In it, the playwright makes fun of a certain Mrs. O'Doherty, who has so convinced herself that everything English is superior to everything Irish that she won't even be known by her married name. As her husband, Mother O'Doherty, the true-born Irishman, puts it, she is no longer the plain, modest, good-natured, domestic, obedient Irish Mrs. O'Doherty, but the travelled, rampant, high-lifed, prancing English Mrs. Diggory. And this is what happens when Mrs. Diggory starts abusing her husband for not wanting to be a lord.
Well, my dear, why will you be in such a passion? Why will you not hearken to reason?
Mr. Diggory, I will hear no reason. There can be no reason against what I say. Oh, you are the strangest man. Not to be a lord. Sir, I insist upon it. There is a necessity for a peerage. Why, sir, I am affronted for want of a title. A parcel of upstarts, with their crownets upon their coaches, their chairs, their spoons, their handkerchiefs, nay, on the very knockers of their doors. Creatures that were below me but the other day are now truly my superiors, and have the precedency, and are set above me at table. Why, sir, I tell you I'm ready to expire whenever I go out into the great world. Can there be anything more provoking to a woman of my taste and spirit than to hear the titles of a parcel of upstart, ugly creatures bawled in one's ears upon every occasion? Milady, Kinnigad's coach there, Milady Kilgobbin's chair there, Milady Tanderagie's chariot there. And after all these titles, only consider how vile my name sounds. Mrs. Diggerty's servants there, Mrs. Diggerty's chair there, Mrs. Diggerty's coach there. Oh, it is so mean and beggarly I can hardly bear it. The very thought of it makes me ready to burst me stays and almost throws me into hysterics. A title I must have. I know it can be had, and so let me have no more trouble about it. I will be a lady as well as other people. I cannot bear being a plain Mrs. Diggerty any longer.
That's the kind of part that Peg loved to play. Something with a bit of humour in it. She was also much in demand for what were called breeches parts. That is, where the woman takes the place of the man, like the principal boy in the pantomime. All her life, though, she hankered after the big tragic roles. But though in latter years she played many of them, she was never as successful as in the humorous parts. After her appearance at Covent Garden in 1740, Peg divided her time between the two London theatres and her own city of Dublin, to which she returned regularly, to be greeted with tremendous enthusiasm. She was elected a member of the exclusive Beefsteak Club, a very special honour, because this was a dining and debating club made up of men only. She was always a favourite of the opposite sex, and of course, because she was so much in the public eye, many stories were told about her, most of them not very flattering, and by no means all of them true. She was a very independent woman at a time when most women, even the ladies of the land, had very little freedom and depended upon their husbands for just about everything. No wonder Peg made a lot of enemies, particularly amongst the women, as well as friends. But she was a real trooper. Though her health wasn't always the best, she believed that the show must go on, whatever happened. And she often stepped in at the last moment to play a part for someone else who had failed to appear. And these parts were by no means what we would call star roles. She was a true professional and would take as much trouble over a small supporting part as over the role of Lady Macbeth.
I bubble, oh how I am troubled, that bosom that bit the distresses are double. I bubble, oh how I am troubled, that bosom that bit my distresses are double. You come to the tree, should the hangman refuse, these fingers with pleasure could fasten the noose. When you come to the tree, should the hangman refuse, these fingers with pleasure could fasten the noose. I bubble, oh how I am troubled, that bosom that bit my distresses are double. I bubble, oh how I am troubled, that bosom that bit my distresses are double. You come to the tree, should the hangman refuse, these fingers with pleasure